The waitress and the stranger in the rain. It was nearly 10 at night, and the rain hammered against the highway with no sign of letting up. Thunder rolled somewhere far off in the hills, and the headlights of passing trucks smeared gold across the wet asphalt. Mira, 27 years old, sat behind the wheel of her father's old white pickup truck. Driving home from the highway diner she ran. Goshi's Kitchen. The diner sat at a bend on National Highway 9, a modest building with a tin roof that rattled every monsoon, 4 wooden tables, and a kitchen that smelled permanently of cumin and fresh parathas. It had been her father Devrej's dream, built plank by plank over 20 years, back when he still had the strength to stand at the stove 12 hours a day. Now the diner was hers to carry. Her father's heart wasn't what it used to be. The doctors had used words like manage and monitor rather than cure. Her mother had passed away 6 years earlier, quietly, in her sleep, leaving behind a house that always felt one person too empty. For 3 years now, Mira had done everything. Waited tables, cooked when the help didn't show, balanced the ledgers late at night by the light of a single bulb, and prayed every month that the diner's earnings would stretch far enough to cover both her father's medicines and the bank's installment. It rarely did, but she never let it show. Not to her father, not to the customers, not even to herself in the mirror some mornings. That night, driving home past the tree line, her headlights caught something moving on the shoulder of the road. A figure, hunched, walking slowly through the downpour. As she got closer, she saw it was an elderly man in a formal suit, drenched to the bone, one hand pressed to his forehead, the other gripping a leather briefcase that had long since stopped being any use against the rain. Mira didn't think twice. She pulled the truck onto the shoulder ahead of him and rolled down the window. "Uncle G, walking in this weather, where are you trying to get to?" The man looked up, startled, blinking water out of his eyes. "My car broke down a few kilometers back," he said, his voice hoarse. "No signal on my phone anywhere along this stretch. Is the city still far?" "About 15 kilometers, Mira said. "Please get in. I'll take you as far as I'm going, at least." He hesitated. The kind of hesitation people carry when they're used to being the one who helps, not the one who's helped. But the cold won out, and he climbed into the passenger seat, dripping onto the cracked vinyl. "Thank you," he murmured, teeth chattering slightly. "I'm sorry about your seat." "Don't worry about the seat," Mira laughed. "Worry about not catching a fever." They didn't talk much on the drive. Mira asked nothing about his name, his business, or why a man in an expensive suit was walking alone on a highway at night. It wasn't her way to pry. She simply mentioned that her family ran a small diner just up the road, and that he was welcome to sit, dry off, and have something hot while the rain eased. When they reached Joshi's kitchen, she seated him near the kitchen, where the warmth from the stove reached the farthest. She brought him a steaming cup of masala chai, then a plate of parathas with pickle and a bowl of dal, refusing even to let him look at a menu. "I can pay," he said, reaching for his wallet. "You're a guest tonight, not a customer," Mira said firmly, setting the plate down. "Nobody discusses money with a guest caught in weather like this. That's just how it works here." The old man studied her for a long moment, not suspicious, but curious, the way someone studies a rare thing they didn't expect to find on an ordinary night. He ate slowly, and as he did, he watched her move through the small diner, refilling a trucker's tea without being asked, laughing gently at a joke from a regular customer, checking her phone every so often with a flicker of worry crossing her face before she tucked it away again. "Is everything all right?" he asked eventually. "Just my father," she said, a little surprised at her own honesty. "He's not been well. I keep an eye on his medicine schedule even from here." "You run this place alone?" "With him when he can manage. Mostly alone now." She smiled, though something tired flickered behind it. "It was his dream before it was my responsibility. I don't mind. It's ours." The old man nodded slowly as though filing something away. He didn't offer sympathy or advice, just quiet attention, the kind that made Mira feel oddly less alone for those few minutes. By 11, the rain had softened to a drizzle, and he called for a taxi to finish his journey into the city. As he stood to leave, he turned back once more. "Beta, what's your name?" "Mira, Mira Joshi." "Thank you, Mira," he said simply, and stepped out into the night. She never asked his. The next morning did not begin like any ordinary day. It began like a second storm, one with no rain at all. A bank officer arrived at the diner just after the breakfast rush. his expression carefully neutral in the way of men who deliver bad news for a living. "Mr. Joshi," he said, addressing Devraj, who had come in for a rare morning at the counter. "Your loan account has been in default for 3 months now. Head office has issued a final notice. If the outstanding amount isn't cleared within the week, the property will be seized and auctioned to recover the debt." The words landed like stones. 15 lakh rupees stood between the family and losing everything. The diner, the land it sat on, the only inheritance her father had left to give. Mira had perhaps 2 lakhs she could scrape together if she sold nearly everything of value she owned. It wasn't close to enough. She didn't tell her father the full weight of it. His heart couldn't take that kind of shock, and she'd carried heavier things alone before. So she smiled through breakfast service, took orders, poured tea, and felt something cold settle permanently behind her ribs. By early afternoon, she'd retreated to the small back office, really just a table behind a curtain, and let herself cry for exactly 5 minutes before wiping her face and going back out to work. There was nothing else to do. The diner didn't run itself. That's when she heard the crunch of tires on gravel outside, followed by car doors closing, more than one. She stepped out to see a black Mercedes parked where trucks usually idled, and stepping out of it, dry and composed in a crisp gray suit, was the same man from the night before. 2 others followed him, carrying folders under their arms like men who meant business. Mira froze mid-step, a tray still in her hands. "Mira Beta," the man said, smiling as he approached. "I didn't tell you my name last night. I'm Raghunath Agarwal. You may have heard of the company, Agarwal Group." The tray nearly slipped from her fingers. Agarwal Group wasn't just a company, it was one of the largest hospitality and real estate names in the entire state, with hotels in 6 cities and a reputation that preceded it everywhere. And this was the man who'd walked drenched and unremarkable along a dark highway, asking only for directions and a warm meal. "Last night," Raghunath continued, "you didn't ask who I was. You didn't take a single rupee from me, even when I offered. You simply saw someone who needed help and gave it, without calculation. This morning I had my office look into you, and into this place." He explained gently that a call to a regional manager had turned up more than he expected. A small family diner run almost single-handedly by a young woman supporting an ailing father, currently on the edge of losing everything to the bank. "I'm not here to repay kindness with a transaction, Mira. I'm here because what you gave me last night, hospitality with no strings attached, is rarer than anything money can buy. I want to invest in this place, rebuild it properly, grow it into something known along this highway, under your father's name, if he'll allow it." Mira's eyes filled before she could stop them. "Uncle G, I don't know what to say. I don't even know if this is real." "It's very real," he said kindly. "And it isn't charity. Consider it a return, the kind that comes back to people who never expect anything in return in the first place." The weeks that followed moved almost too fast to believe. Raghunath's team cleared the outstanding loan in full within days, silencing the bank's notices for good. Renovation began soon after. New tables, a proper kitchen, a covered seating area that could withstand the monsoon without leaking, and a sign out front that read, in bold letters, "Joshi's Kitchen," exactly as it always had been, but sturdier now, built to last. When Devraj learned the whole story, every detail, from the rainy night to the Mercedes and the gravel lot, he sat quietly for a long moment, then laughed, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like years to Mira. "Your mother always said," he told her, eyes wet, "that this road brings back what you give it. I didn't believe her the way you do. I do now." 6 months later, Joshi's Kitchen had become something of a landmark along the highway. Larger, cleaner, more capable of handling the crowds that now stopped deliberately rather than by accident, but still carrying the same warmth, the same smell of home-cooked food, the same woman greeting every guest like family. Mira was no longer simply the waitress keeping the lights on. She was the owner, the manager, and the reason the place had survived at all. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the highway, Raghunath's car pulled in again, unannounced, the way it had that very first time. Mira brought him tea without being asked. The same blend, the same care, and, without thinking, refused payment exactly as she had before. "You can let me pay now, Beta," he said, smiling as he settled into his seat. "I think the diner can afford it." "No, Uncle G," Mira said, shaking her head with a grin. "You're still a guest here, and guests don't pay." whether they're a stranger caught in the rain or the head of Agarwal Group. Raghunath looked at her for a long moment, something soft crossing his face. He had built an empire on numbers and margins, on calculated risk and careful strategy, and yet here, in a rebuilt roadside diner, he'd found something no balance sheet could measure. Real wealth, he said quietly, almost to himself, was never in the money. It was always in people who give without keeping score. That single rainy night hadn't just guided a stranded old man back to the road home. It had reshaped an entire family's future. Proof, if anyone still needed it, that kindness given freely never truly disappears. It waits, sometimes just around the next bend, ready to find its way back.